Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam Olmstead. His name is Justin Irwin. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. This week's show is brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. Go to advancedpodiatry.com for information on treatments, services provided, office locations, and appointment information. So thank you everyone for tuning in this week, either on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So Justin, 3 games in 3 days. Did you get all of your steps in?
Yeah, well, I park close to the door, so I don't get quite as many.
So right off the bat, we've been kicking some ideas around for this summer. In the past, once the season was over, we would do like a draft recap episode and a tryout camp recap episode. And that's really about all we would do until September. So we're working on some ideas to fill those gaps. So right now, there are a couple we can announce for sure. First off, we will be doing an omnibus episode featuring all of the player interviews we did during the season, even the ones of players that were traded afterwards, sometimes a couple days afterwards.
Sometimes it seemed like we were a curse.
Poor Evan Werner. We interview him and he's gone like 2 days later. I had to check just to make sure it wasn't us. Like whether we bombed that interview and they're like, all right, get him out of here.
I want to get as far away from these guys as possible.
But no, it turned out we weren't. No, it wasn't us, but so we're good there. And something we'll be doing that I guess all of you listening will probably get a laugh out of while we cringe in fear. We will be doing a listen along reaction episode where we'll take a trip down memory lane and look back at the very first episode of this show we did in March 2019. Now, there are a couple parts I remember, but I have not heard the full episode in 3 years, so this could be bad for us.
I think I've paid my therapist to repress these memories. He'll probably be pretty mad.
The early episodes, it was a very budget-friendly setup we were both rocking at the time to be able to do this, so that'll be interesting to go back and hear that again. So if anyone out there has an idea for an episode, feel free to drop us a line and let us know. So moving on to some actual hockey news, the USA Hockey National Championships have been taking place over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And there are a couple players of note from the Tier 1 18U division, the first of which was last summer's first overall pick in the Phase 1 draft, William Whitelaw. Now, his team, Shattuck St. Mary, made it to the Final Four before being knocked out. Will himself finished the tournament with 3 goals and 5 assists in 5 games. There's been speculation we might be seeing him soon. As of right now, there's really not any confirmation or denial. As far as whether he'll be showing up on the Phantoms roster here in the next week or so.
I would speculate, yeah. I mean, but any one of the, of several players could show up on our roster with the finals being over. So I would expect some definitely to show up. Especially since we've seemed to have a few players out with injury right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would expect to see at least some affiliates playing in the next few weeks. So I don't see why we couldn't speculate that Whitelaw will be in.
Also, defenseman Mario DiMaggio, who is a 2020 Phase 1 pick, who has played a few affiliate games with the Phantoms over the past few seasons. He was part of the runners-up St. Louis Blues AAA U18 team. Mario finished with 2 assists in 6 games. So congrats to these two on a great tournament. And like I said, hopefully sooner or later we'll be seeing them in Youngstown.
Yeah, I mean, this is that time of year, so we'll see.
And like you just brought up, it seems like the injury bug has come sniffing around the Cavelli Center. Right now, currently, we have Adam Ingram, Winter Wallace, who we're going to hear from later on in this episode, TJ Schweighardt and Owen Carlisle, all out with injuries by the time the weekend was over. And I will remind everyone of our injury policy. Sometimes we know what the deal is, sometimes we don't. It is our policy that unless the team or the player themselves disclose it publicly, we do not. So this translates to don't ask us.
Yeah.
Either publicly or privately, because we are not at liberty to answer.
Yeah, if you don't already know, then we can't really tell you.
Yeah.
So
that really brings up, are we going to be seeing affiliates? Because by the time the Phantoms got to Sunday, they were playing with a short bench. Hopefully some relief and maybe some fresh legs will be on the way, especially after what's going to be happening, 4 games in 5 days.
Well, there is that. One of those quirks of the schedule with, you get a makeup day in the middle of the week on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You do what you have to do. So, yeah, I don't know if we'll get any affiliates in by that time. It's certainly possible.
All right, so as far as this episode, we will be recapping this past weekend, 3 games at the Covelli Center with Muskegon. There is the Tuesday game with Team USA, which it turns out Tuesday is the worst possible day to have a game as far as us being able to do anything with that. We record on Monday, we release on Wednesday, so there is just nothing we can do. When we're recording, the game hasn't happened, and by the time you're hearing this, the game has already been played, so Tuesday is a bad day for this to happen.
I should be editing the YouTube version. I should be assembling that at the time I'm going to be watching the game. So
yeah, we'll have the 3 games with Muskegon. We'll have post-game comments from Coach Brad Patterson. We will have a new a new edition of 4 Points with our 3 stars of the week. Our player interview with Phantoms forward Winter Wallace. We'll be previewing this weekend's road trip. And I will go ahead and announce now, since I confirmed not that long ago, that next week's episode, we are going to have Senior Vice President Kelsey Morton on. 3 home games remaining for the Phantoms, and apparently there are some major plans in the works. So we'll be having Kelsey on to talk about that next week's show. But I thought, since I just found that out, we'll go ahead and throw it out there.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess we have the plans in the works. So
yeah,
as long as nothing changes or comes up.
Knowing our luck, something will change. But
yeah.
So with that, we're going to take our first break. On the other side, we'll take a look back at a 4 out of 6 point weekend with Muskegon. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
And we're back. So this past weekend, 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the Muskegon Lumberjacks, with Phantoms taking the win in 2 of those 3 games. So we're going to jump right into the game on Friday. That was a 6-3 win for the Phantoms. So right off the bat in the first period, probably one of the better first periods for the Phantoms this season. Early on in the game, Muskegon taking 2 early penalties, giving the Phantoms 2 early power plays. They were able to take advantage of both of those. At the 2:51 mark, Garrett Wright, his 14th of the season, from Shane LaChance and Andrew Centrella, giving Youngstown a 1-0 lead. About 90 seconds later, Adam Ingram, also on the power play, his 24th of the season, from Trey Taylor and Charlie Lurie. That upped the lead to 2-0. At 12:27, Kenta Isagai, his 9th of the season, from Steven Sardarian and Quinn Kennedy, which happened to be his first USHL point, getting the assist there, giving Youngstown a 3-0 lead. And then Youngstown would take a 4-0 lead at the 16:59 mark. Trey Taylor, his 9th of the season, from Owen Carlisle, also his first USHL point on the assist there, and Chase Patilla. Muskegon would get 1 back at the 17:41 mark. Ben Strindon, his 23rd of the season, from Hudson and Guavin. So 4-1 score. That's how we would go into the second period. At 3:02 the second period, Cody Kroll, his first of the season, from Mellenbacher and Richard, cuts Youngstown's lead down to 4-2, but Youngstown would get that 1 back 21 seconds later. Steven Sardarian, his 7th of the season, from Kenta Isagai and Trey Taylor. You're going to be hearing Trey's name a lot in these through these games, but giving Youngstown a 5-2 lead, and that's how we would go to the third. In the third period, Muskegon's Cody Kroll, his 2nd of the season and 2nd of the game, from Ellison Richard, again cutting the lead down to 2, Youngstown leading 5-3. And then at the 19:26 mark, this was a twofer for Youngstown. They were shorthanded and the net was empty. So Tiernan Shouty picks up the empty net goal, his 10th of the season, from Shane LaChance and Trey Taylor, creating the final margin of victory there. Youngstown 6, Muskegon 3. Shots in the game, Muskegon 24, Youngstown 29. Youngstown on the power play was 2 for 3. Muskegon was 0 for 3. Muskegon's goaltender, Alexander Kuleshov, stopped 9 of 13, and he was pulled with 3 minutes left in the first. He ended up taking the loss in this game. Chase Clark in relief was able to stop 14 of 15 shots. Youngstown's Kyle Chevette stopped 21 of 24 in the win. He would make one more appearance this weekend. So as much as we talk about Youngstown getting out to a fast start in the first period, or at least taking the initiative in the first period, there's a lot to like as far as this game was concerned.
Yeah, obviously taking advantages of the chances you're given was a big key here. So
okay, so moving on to the game on Saturday. This was a 4-3 win for the Phantoms. In the first period, at the 10-10 mark, Youngstown's Kyle Bettens, his 14th of the season, kicked off the scoring with assist from Steven Sardarian and Kenta Isagai. With 25 seconds left in the period, Muskegon's Joey Larson, his 30th of the season from Strindon, that tied the game at 1 going into the intermission. So in the second period at the 9:24 mark, Muskegon's Owen Mellenbacher, his 11th of the season from Richard, that gave Muskegon a 2-1 lead. Again, about 90 seconds later, Kyle Bettens picked up his 15th of the season and second of the game from Jaden Grant and Tyler Catalano, tying the game at 2. The score would hold there up until the third period. So going into the third, at the 2:22 mark, early on in the period, Grant Porter, his 7th of the season from Steven Sardarian and Nick Williams, giving Youngstown a 3-2 lead. Youngstown would take a 4-2 lead at the 7:25 mark. Garrett Wright, his 15th of the season from Justin Varner and Bayard Hall. Muskegon would get one late at 18-18. Owen Mellenbacher, his 11th of the season and second of the game from Brasini and Richard, cutting the lead to 1. Pretty good little scramble there at the end. Youngstown holds off for the 4-3 win. Shots in the game, Muskegon 37, Youngstown 18. Youngstown was 0 for 5 on the power play. Muskegon was 0 for 4. Muskegon's goalie, Chase Clark, stopped 14 of 18 in the loss. Youngstown's Jacob Fowler stopped 34 of 37, getting the win. So on the season, his record improves to 8-3-0-1 with a 2.09 goals against average and a .930 save percentage with 2 shutouts. So after the game, Coach Brad Patterson was asked about goaltender Jacob Fowler, especially about his performance in the second period, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, he was terrific. Especially I felt like the last couple of minutes. In the second, like we said, they controlled play quite a bit, and he made some big stops. But I felt like those last 2 or 3 minutes, he was making some big runs. Kenta has a big block. We have a couple of big blocks from our D, and you need that. It's a playoff-like game, and 3-3, it's tough to get through here.
Yeah, the second period for the Phantoms on Saturday was not a good one. The vast majority of the action took place in the defensive zone, basically going out of the zone long enough to make line changes. Yeah, so a lot of credit is due to Jacob Fowler and how he was able to hold off Muskegon in that second period, only giving up the 1 goal.
The defense was just kind of getting worn down there. So, yeah, you mentioned they were getting, just getting out long enough to make line changes. There were a few icing calls that, you were thinking, this is not good. Guys not getting changes out there sometimes. It's the period of the long change. So, yeah, definitely credit to Fowler for bailing us out more than just a little bit there.
Yeah, the box score for that game has the shots in the second period listed as Muskegon 13 and Youngstown 8, but I'm fairly sure some of those 8 shots were just dump-ins. Going in for a change. I really don't remember 8 shots in that period.
Yeah, and the fact that they only got 13 was due to, a lot of good block shots.
Yes. And then going to the game on Sunday, this is kind of where the wheels fell off the wagon. Youngstown working with a short bench. Guys just all around tired by the time this one was over. But yeah, this game was a 4-1 loss for the Phantoms. So in the first period, there was no scoring. So jumping ahead to the second period, 57 seconds in, Youngstown's Justin Varner, his 10th of the season from Shane LaChance and Trey Taylor, gave Youngstown a 1-0 lead. And then at the 4:06 mark, Muskegon's Philip Tresca, his 27th of the season from Hudson, that tied the game at 1. And then at 16:49, Muskegon's Jack Williams, his 15th of the season from Jacob Guavin and Ellis, giving Muskegon a 2-1 lead. And quite frankly, that had to be the goal of the weekend, because when Jack Williams scored that goal, Chauvette was in the net.
You keep loving that empty net stat from last year.
I'm not going to let that go until he's out of the league. You want a basket hang on empty net chances to pad your stats, then I'm going to bring it up until you're gone. So going on to the third period, this was all Muskegon at the 6:43 mark. Quinn Hudson on the power play, his 29th of the season, from Williams and Guavin, giving Muskegon a 3-1 lead. And then Muskegon would pick up the empty net with a minute and change left in the game to take a 4-1 lead. That was Parker Lindauer from Richard and Mellenbacher. So shots in the game, Muskegon 33, Youngstown 16. Youngstown on the power play was 0 for 6. Muskegon was 1 for 3. Muskegon's Chase Clark getting quite a lot of ice time this weekend, stopped 15 of 16 in the win. And Youngstown's Kyle Chauvette stopped 29 of 32 in the loss. So going 1-1 on the weekend. Kyle's record goes to 11-15-4-2 with a 3.23 goals against average and a .895 save percentage. Yeah, it came down to, really once they got into the second period, they had the lead for a little bit. Once Muskegon came back and tied it, what air they had left in them pretty much got let out at that point, and it was slow moving the rest of the game.
You kind of expect to see that. You hope you don't. But yeah, Muskegon, they got a little bit of a lift out of that go-ahead goal, and they rode that throughout pretty much the rest of the game. Not really a whole lot you can say.
So with these 3 games, that completed a 10-game season series with the Muskegon Lumberjacks. So ending there kind of on a low note, but overall, turns out we won the season series.
It was a back and forth, but yeah.
Compared to last season, that's a pretty good leap forward. In the 10 games, Youngstown went 5-3, 1-1 for 12 out of a possible 20 points. Muskegon was a straight 5-5 for 10 points. So when it was all said and done, we got them by 2 in this one.
Yeah. And every point counts. And yeah, in the head-to-head, especially you want to get every point you can. So we're still trailing them by a few in the standings. We would have liked to have not given them any points, but you're not going to have that a whole lot in this league.
So again, we bring up there is this game on Tuesday. Right now, it hasn't happened. By the time all of you are listening to it, it has already happened. We already did this bit a few weeks ago, so we'll change it up a little bit. We'll do 3 takes here for 3 different scenarios for what potentially could happen with the game on Tuesday. So take 1 will be if the Phantoms win. And now take 2 will be if the Phantoms lose. And take 3 will be if by chance the rapture happens during the middle of the game.
Why am I still here?
Where did I go wrong?
Everybody left me.
All right, you got the new soundboard here and finally got to use the stock sound effects, so I'm excited about that. All right, so we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll break down the weekend in this week's edition of 4 Points. So stick around right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So for listeners new and old, 4 Points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories: what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and the 3 stars of the week. So do I have the floor, good sir?
Carry on.
I gotta stop writing these little bits. It feels like it's getting worse as time goes on.
Because it is.
Yes, I'm taking the blame for it.
I couldn't come up with anything better for you there.
Yeah, neither could I. That's why I came up with that. If I came up with something better, it would have been there. All right. Okay, so getting into this. So as far as what I liked, and again, it's something we've talked about, just trying to jump out early, trying to have a good first period, trying to set the tone. The Phantoms did succeed in that. Didn't last as long on Sunday, but the Phantoms were able to score first in all 3 games. Now, the game on Sunday, the first goal wasn't scored until the second period, but some pretty good back and forth in that first period. All in all, if they can continue this going forward, it is definitely a step in the right direction, especially with opponents that this team has coming up.
Yeah, I mean, most teams definitely play better with a lead. There's all sorts of stats about teams that score first, but obviously you always want to get the first goal, and we did that. I guess kind of feeding off of that, what I like this week, we started out the weekend 2 quick power play chances, 2 quick power play goals. I just really like when you take advantages of opportunities like that. They gave us 2 on a silver platter, and we buried them both.
Well, that pretty much bleeds into what I didn't like. While the Phantoms did get those 2 power play goals early on Friday, overall for the weekend, the power play pretty much still not producing. They got those first 2. They went 0 for 12 for the rest of the weekend. 0 for 5 on Saturday, 0 for 6 on Sunday. And especially a team like Muskegon with with the worst penalty kill in the Eastern Conference. That's something you would hope the team would take advantage of. You get these games where it just seems like the power play's clicking, and you saw it with those 2 power play goals on Friday. They were getting the puck to the net. They were putting pressure on the goaltender, who was flopping all over the place, like a fish out of water, but they were driving the net, getting into those dirty areas, and were getting results from it. And then a lot of what we saw on Saturday and Sunday was just a lot more of the whole perimeter passing around, trying to set up that perfect shot that a lot of the times ended up not happening.
Or somebody ends up trying to set up a shot from a janky angle that ends up going out of the zone on its own.
Yeah.
I think at this point we kind of need to simplify things there. Yeah, what I didn't like, I'll take an obvious one, the scratch list.
Yeah.
We've been relatively lucky this season, I think, through most of it. Not a lot of, serious injuries. Most of our key players have played the majority of the season. Really kind of bad timing, I guess, to get hit by that injury bug. Got to play through it. We got 4 out of 6 here. You got to love. But we'll see going ahead how this is going to affect us.
So for my favorite moment, after the game on Saturday, there was a large contingent of us that went to the Drought House in Youngstown after the game. Now, of course, the game on Saturday night, that was Youngstown Steelhound night. They had former players there that dropped the puck before the game, various other things they did throughout the course of the game. Yeah, and then it was just kind of like a meet and greet after the game at the Drought House. Now, it's not always polite to tell the stories of others, or people tend to not want you to show up to these things in the future. So what I will say is that some had more fun than others, some had less. Stories were told, memories were made, and yes, a grand time was had by all that shall be handed down in the annals of Youngstown hockey. Did that cover my butt enough there?
I think yes. The legal department is giving us the thumbs up here.
That's not your thumb.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
I was insinuating your middle finger, you dirty pirate.
Yeah.
We might have kids listening. Do you think I'd go that far?
Yeah, I'm not a minor league baseball mascot that's a pickle, so
yeah, okay.
I don't know if anybody ever saw that story, but that was...
Moving on.
Yes.
So, Justin, what was your favorite moment of the weekend?
My favorite moment of the weekend was the Saturday dog pile in the quarter. Third period, it's safe to say that game was getting a little chippy. I think it was Jacob Napier from Muskegon buried Varner in the boards, check from behind. Garrett Wright took exception to it. And after the whistle gave Napier a couple of shots, and that was pretty much everybody into the pile at that point, right in our corner. And, it was one of those situations where, the game's getting chippy. We're in the lead. You can't let guys take cheap shots at your teammates. Yeah, somehow we got an extra or an even up call out of it, but it was fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Especially when it's literally right on the other side of the boards.
Yeah. So I might dig up some video if you're watching on YouTube.
Okay, so now it is time for the Dump and Chase podcast 3 stars of the week, and we're going to kick it off with the 3rd star of the week, and we're actually splitting this one. So the 3rd star will go to both Quinn Kennedy and Owen Carlisle for both picking up their first USHL points on Friday. We've seen these guys in and out of games, especially here in the second half of the season. So for both of them to pick up their first points, and actually that was on consecutive goals when they picked up those first points. So they got it over quickly in this game. But big stick taps and congratulations to Quinn and Owen for getting that first one out of the way.
I thought especially, Kennedy, he had a pretty good game on Sunday when everybody else was a little bit flat. So he seemed to get a little lift out of it. Carlisle was one of those guys who ended up on the scratch list. So I can't really say for him, but definitely a good weekend for those two. Second star of the week, Steven Sardarian, a goal and 3 assists. Just generally out there causing havoc for the defense. He's a slippery one. And
that was something you brought up over the course of the weekend, and then Matt brought it up as well with Brad in one of the post games, was kind of that combination of Steven and Kenta.
Yeah,
those two were really feeding well off each other.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar players, both great skaters, bring a lot of speed and kind of hard to read sometimes.
And our first star of the week, and this will be 2 weeks in a row now he's picked up the first star. That is going to Trey Taylor. 1 goal, 4 assists on the weekend. Last week, he was the first star, only had the 1 goal. That was more based on his defensive play. And while he was great again defensively this week, this one skews more towards his offensive play, which just goes to show just what a special player he has been this season.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it repeatedly. We've really lacked this from the defensive core over previous seasons. Somebody, of his caliber, both offensively and defensively, as well as leadership.
Okay, so that will do it for 3 stars of the week, and that will do it for 4 points. So at the start of the game on Sunday, which is a little different than what we normally do, due to him being scratched, I got to talk with Phantoms forward Winter Wallace. Now, this was recorded in the hallway right outside the press box, so not only will you hear game noise in the background because the beginning of the first period was happening as this interview was going on Sunday, you'll also hear someone pushing a food cart past us in the hallway. Nothing I could do about that.
Hey, at least there was no goal horn.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, this was a fun one, especially if you remember some of the interviews we did earlier in the season with some of the other players. So with that being said, have a listen. Okay, it's time for another Dump and Chase podcast player interview. I'm here with Phantoms forward Winter Wallace. Right away, Winter, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it.
Now, you're a scratch this week, unfortunately, dealing with injuries and stuff like that. We're actually doing this pregame for once. Usually we do these postgame. Phantoms have gotten 2 wins out of 3 right now, going for win number 3, getting the sweep on the weekend. How have you felt about the team this weekend?
Team's playing great. I mean, it's been pretty fun to watch. It sucks not to be playing with the boys, but this was a big weekend. We knew that, and we have 4 out of 6 right now, and this is a big game tonight. We got a handful of guys out, but the boys have stepped up, and it's been awesome. Fun to watch.
All right, so going back to the beginning, where did you get your start in hockey?
I grew up in a small town in Crested Butte, Colorado, super small population, and I guess I just started with my mom throwing me on the pond or the outdoor rink, and She kind of threw me in every sport at a young age and kind of gravitated toward hockey and stuck with it, I guess.
Okay. Now, you were with the Phantoms last year as well. How much more fun has this season been compared to last year?
Yeah, last year was a learning experience. Team struggled a bit, but the staff and the management have done a great job this year at bringing players in and developing us, and it's been fun, and I'm excited to see how far we can take this. So.
Now, talking with Coach Brad earlier, he had said that it felt like earlier in the season, even though you have a great shot, you were hesitant to use it. Do you feel like that was the case, and what has changed for you in the past couple months?
Yeah, I think kind of finding my identity and knowing my strengths, my shot being one of them, using that to my advantage, and I feel like I can kind of score from anywhere, so trusting my shot, and yeah, it's just been a learning experience, and the past couple of months I've been feeling really good. So.
Now, you came here last season in a trade with Lincoln, which at this point seems like forever and a day ago. How would you compare yourself as a player to when you came here from Lincoln to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I was coming out of high school. It's a big jump from high school to the USHL, and I think it's the best league in the world for junior hockey, and it was an adjustment, and I think every day I've taken strides, and that's the plan from here on out, to keep taking strides.
All right, now you had been committed to Michigan State, now you are committed to Cornell. So I guess why Cornell, and is there a little bit of extra flex in being able to say that you're going to be an Ivy League guy?
Yeah, Cornell, unbelievable spot, great coaching staff, great program, history of winning, and the Ivy League education is just a bonus. So lots of positive there, and I'm super excited for the future with them.
Now, I'll be asking him the same thing, but your teammate Byard Hall is going to Yale. Has there been any conversations that you guys might be going up against each other at some point here?
Yeah, definitely. I was picking his brain a little bit throughout the recruiting process on the Ivy League side. So, yeah, we've gotten close the past 2 years, and he's a hell of a teammate, and I'm looking forward to playing against him in the next couple of years here.
All right, now early in the season when I would interview your teammates, I would ask them which teammate would they not want to take a punch from. This may surprise you, every one of them without hesitation said you. So I ended up retiring the question early because there was really no variety in the answer. So I'm going to bring it back one last time and ask you, which one of your teammates would you not want to take a punch from?
I'll take a punch from anyone. No, I'm kidding. I would have to go with...
Oh, Shane threw down pretty well the other night.
Maybe Kyle Bettens or, Shane LaChance. Two big rigs.
Okay. And finally, is there anything you would want to say to the Youngstown fans who may be listening to this?
No, just I think we're really taking strides here, and it's been a fun season, and playoffs should be exciting. So we're going to finish the year strong, and thank you guys for all your support and energy, and I hope to see that continue throughout the year. You guys are incredible.
All right, and we've been talking with Phantoms forward Winter Wallace. Winter, thank you so much for taking the time. Get healthy again. We hope to see you the rest of the season and playoffs.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And there you go. A big thanks to Winter for taking some time for the show. He did not have an answer for that question. He could not think of anybody he wouldn't want to take a punch. He was being humble there, I think.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. When he said he'll take a punch from anyone, that might have been the honest answer.
Yeah, I think that was the honest answer. I think he was being polite there, a little humble there, and throwing out a name or two. But yeah, again, thank you, Winter. Taking a few minutes before the game there. Make sure to tune in next week to hear our interview with Phantoms blue liner and assistant captain Byard Hall. So now it's time for our bathroom and juice box break. So when we come back, we'll look ahead to this weekend's road trip to visit a couple arenas in Iowa. So keep it right here on Western Reserve Radio. Hello, Phantom fans. This is the Dump and Chase podcast.
We're trying to model ourselves after what you guys have done a little bit.
Voice of the Phantoms and friend of the show, Mr. Matt Lipsack.
I am along for the ride and perhaps provide some modicum of adult supervision here, although really that's a lost cause at this point.
We welcome back Phantoms president Andrew Goldman. That went smoother. It went smoother than it did with Matt.
I want that added. I want that added.
What are you shaking your head now for?
I'm agreeing with you because he has absolutely killed us this year.
Yeah, that's not helping. I'm trying to process. Okay.
Well, so far, finger guns has meant Sam shut up. So got to come up with a different sign for that.
Listen, that was frightening.
And we're back. The Phantoms have 2 games this weekend. Some of the stats I would normally bring up in this segment, I'm not going to just because of the Tuesday game. So by the time everybody hears this, Youngstown numbers are going to change. So I'm not even going to really bother with that so much. But yeah, the Phantoms will be taking trips to Cedar Rapids and Dubuque. Cedar Rapids on Friday night and Dubuque on Saturday night. So as far as the game Friday night with Cedar Rapids, this is the final game of a 7-game season series. Youngstown in the 6 games so far are 3-2-0-1 against Cedar Rapids. Again, in those 6 games, Youngstown has outscored Cedar Rapids 16-14. This was a case of early on in the season, Youngstown wasn't having much luck, still trying to find their identity. Cedar Rapids, a little better start to their season, has fallen off a good bit since then. In the games played so far, as far as special teams, Youngstown on the power play has been 7 for 25, which is 28%. Cedar Rapids on the power play has been 6 for 22. So that puts Youngstown's penalty kill at 72.2%. Now, the last meeting between these two teams, that was COVID weekend at the Covelli Center on January 7th and 8th. Youngstown sweeping that weekend series, winning on Friday 3-1, and then winning on Saturday 3-0. Yeah, that was, in a lot of ways, that was a big weekend. Owen Bartoszewicz having the best weekend he had with Youngstown to date, and then left a couple days later for the University of Minnesota, and then Youngstown bringing in Jacob Fowler, and of course the story that he has been since getting called up to the USHL.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, that the other candidate for the open NCAA spot was on the Cedar Rapids bench, so that might have been a secret tryout.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm sure they already had their minds made up.
I believe that was already decided beforehand.
Yeah, but it sounds good.
So last weekend, Cedar Rapids, they had a 3-3 last weekend. They won 2 of 3. One of the Cedar Rapids and Dubuque seem to be the 2 teams from the East that get to play Western Conference teams due to a good chunk of the league being in Iowa. But yeah, games against Waterloo and Des Moines, they actually won both of those games 4-1. And then on Sunday, they played the U18s, which was the U18s' last game of the season. That'll be relevant here in a second. That was their final game of the USHL schedule. The U18s won that game 7-6. So Cedar Rapids coming into this weekend with a record of 25-27-2-1. That is good for 7th place in the Eastern Conference. They are 2 points back of Team USA for the 6th seed. It's going to be interesting how that plays out because from here on out, USA's schedule is going to be played by the 17 squad. So Youngstown coming into the weekend, again, these numbers will be one higher or one lower depending on what happened on Tuesday. With a record of 26-25-4, which is good for 61 points in 4th in the East. So this game on Tuesday isn't going well. If they win or lose, will not bump them up and down the standings at all. So they will remain in 4th going into the weekend. There may be some possible suspensions for a couple brawls that took place with the U18s. Kind of the hallmark of the U18s. Their last game of the season is a couple of line brawls to finish out games. As far as suspensions, any for USA, that's really not going to matter unless any of these kids are playing on a different USHL next season, then it would carry over. But for the rest of them, they were playing with nothing, they were going with nothing to lose there. So yeah, a lot of misconducts, a lot of stuff going on there at the end of the game, 2 separate brawls. So yeah, Cedar Rapids might be dealing with some suspensions as far as this game on Friday is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I think Youngstown Phantom fans can certainly sympathize a little bit there with Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
We've been involved in maybe a few of these. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, the Phantoms will be playing the U17s on Tuesday, Cedar Rapids on Friday. That's 2 of the 3 possible teams to make the last playoff spot. If we get that 3rd place spot, that might be a first round matchup. So, something to look at for the long term.
All right, so for the game on Saturday, the Phantoms will be visiting the Dubuque Fighting Saints. That will be the final game of a 6-game season series with Dubuque. Dubuque has been the team more than anybody Youngstown has had trouble with this season. In 5 games so far, Youngstown is 0-3, 1-1 against Dubuque, so only 2 out of a possible 10 points so far. In 5 games, Dubuque has outscored Youngstown 20-12. Special teams, Youngstown on the power play, only 1 for 22. That is 4.5% on the power play. Dubuque on the power play, 4 for 15. So Youngstown's penalty kill against Dubuque at 73.3%. This is going to be, I would really like for Youngstown to get the Dubuque monkey off their back before getting into the playoffs. It hasn't been good so far. It'd be nice to get this one.
Yeah, what you just said before the playoffs. I'd like to see it. It's going to be rough. I don't know how much the guys are going to have left in the tank after 4 games in 5 days. And then having to play Cedar Rapids the night before, that's a lot of travel.
All right, so the last time these 2 teams met, that was February 26th and 27th. The games were in Dubuque. The first game was a 4-3 overtime loss for the Phantoms. The second game was a 2-1 loss. They fared a little bit better as far as holding Dubuque's offense at bay. Again, this will kind of be interesting to see how Youngstown's defense matches up with them this time around. Last weekend, Dubuque beat Des Moines 3-1 on Friday, beat Waterloo 2-1 on Saturday in overtime. As far as this weekend is concerned, Dubuque has a game with Muskegon on Friday. So they'll be dealing with the Lumberjacks the day before the Phantoms come to town. So coming into this weekend, by the time the game's played, barring what happens with Muskegon, Dubuque's coming in with a record of 34, 16-2, and 3. They are currently sitting second place in the Eastern Conference. They're only trailing Chicago by 3 points for first, so definitely a battle going on there. Yeah, so anything else on Dubuque, or?
No, I mean, their offense has been way better than I think anybody thought they were going to be this year. Just a really solid team. We're going to have to play full 60 minutes to, even keep it close. Like you said, we had been faring better, so we'll see. Hopefully, some of these trades have, made us a stronger team.
Okay, so we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this episode and look ahead to next week. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And that will do it for this episode. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll recap this weekend and look ahead to a 2-game series at the Cavelli Center with the visiting Chicago Steel. Plus, hear from Phantom Senior Vice President Kelsey Morton and defenseman Byard Hall. So, Justin, any final words of wisdom or life advice before we get out of here?
Never get involved in a land war in Asia.
I think that would be second. What would be first?
Something about a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Never get in a battle of wits with a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Yeah. God, I hope people know what we're referencing. If not, I'll be sad. Very sad.
I don't think I'll want to know them if they don't get that reference.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't get it, just unfollow us.
Yeah. So again, we want to thank the official sponsor of the Dump and Chase podcast, the fine physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry. For information about treatments and services offered, locations, and appointment information, check out advancedpodiatry.com. And as always, the Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com. Be sure to check out our syndication partners at ohiohockeydigest.com as well. Now, you can hear this show every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio, either on westernreserveradio.com, through the TuneIn or Live 365 app, the Western Reserve Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. Now, all of the episodes from this season, plus the bonus episodes, can be found on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and everywhere else. All 70-plus episodes we have done over the past 3 years can be found on our YouTube channel. All of these places can be found on our Linktree page, the link to which can be found in the description of however you are listening to this episode. You can look up Justin on Facebook at facebook.com/YTHockeyFan and on Twitter at YTHockeyFan, and both of those are spelled PHAN. And you can find me on Twitter at @dump_chasepod. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in this week. For Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. We'll talk with you all next week right here on the Dump and Chase podcast. Bye now.